Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm Ben Bullock from Together SC, and I just want to thank y'all for joining us today on this wonderful call. We're talking about building up your board leadership pipeline, which is very important in the nonprofit sector. Our boards of directors are the ones who have the ultimate authority for the governance and of the organization, and oftentimes these are folks that we're bringing in who may not have much experience in the nonprofit sector from a professional standpoint. And so, how do we get our board members in a place where they can be effective leaders in our organizations? And so, I'm excited to introduce Ginny Waller to you. When I first met Ginny, she was an executive director of a nonprofit here in Columbia, and she's then went into the consulting world and I think went off to Virginia, and now she's back in South Carolina, and she's got a great partnership with another dear friend of ours, Colleen Bozard, on this To Be Honest project. And so I'm not going to take any more time. I'm going to turn this over to Ginny Waller and sit back and listen. Welcome,
Yeah,
Ginny.
thank you, Ben. So, one small slight correction is I'm actually still in the DC area. I just, most of my clients are South Carolina clients and North Carolina clients, and I'm still licensed to practice law. I think I haven't checked recently, but I'm pretty sure they're still going to let me practice down there in South Carolina. So that's where, and that's home. That's home. So you guys are my people. I want to preface everything by saying you came here today to hear the secret sauce. I got that. You're like, she's going to know something that I don't know. And I'm going to go ahead and just dispel that myth. It is not going to happen because the truth of the matter is that it's blood, sweat, and tears that are involved in board development, board recruitment, board engagement. It is absolutely hard pushing for years before you get to that level where you have this really deep pipeline. So there is no secret sauce. Well, okay, there may be a secret sauce. I don't know it. But I'm going to talk to you today about what you can do if you put your head down and you really focus on developing your board and making it a priority because it will affect all other things, right? I would like this to be engaging. I will be asking questions, and certainly you can drop questions into the chat, but just don't go too quiet on me. I see a lot of cameras off, and I'm fine with that because I have kiddos and all kinds of things going on out there. But it certainly come on camera if you want to and interact with us. So a little housekeeping. Obviously, you know the virtual etiquette by now. I do want engagement. I don't want to be talking at you for 45 minutes. And then lastly, if you do have something to say, try not to be judgmental in your space. We all come at these things differently. Many people have had organizations and are in their roles for 20 years before they get to the point where they can focus on their board. So not a judgment space, be really honest and open, but in a kind way. All right, so here are the learning outcomes for today. I want us to be able to identify characteristics of high impact boards. For those of you who've ever heard this, and you probably have, when they were assessing whether or not something was pornography, the Supreme Court was assessing whether something was pornography. They said, I'll know it when I see it. And that's how we'll define what's pornography. Well, that's the truth about everything in life. We need to know it before we can actually set it up and create something. So we are going to identify the characteristics of high impact boards. We're going to understand then how to engage them. And then we're going to develop a plan because when we look at the two major components of high impact boards, it's board engagement and board recruitment. So board engagement is board members who are empowered and who communicate effectively. And board recruitment is one that gets people engaged from the very beginning in a really, really strong way. So when we're done today, I want you to recognize the importance of a transition away from the mindset of recruiting board members who know all the right people and have deep pockets. How often have we heard that? If I could just get the guy from Microsoft, if I could just get that Hollywood celebrity that put his house down in Charleston, those are not our people. That is not who we want on our board. We're going to obtain material tools to assist in developing a clear board recruitment strategy. So I will be sending you some things afterwards because you attended and were willing to listen to me for this time. And then I want you to walk away with some clear ideas of what you're going to do immediately, starting today, to improve your board pipeline. So we can go ahead and do the poll here, Ben. And the question is, who are you? And obviously, I can look at the attendance list, but I want everyone to know who is in the room. So you have your poll in front of you. For those of you who have zoned out, this is the time to come back. There is a poll open on your computer. And if you'll please check in with us and let us know who you are. And I was
Give it a few more
really
seconds here. We've got 15 of 17 folks participating, getting folks in here. And you just tell me when you want me to close it out.
You can close it. I think we probably have a good idea now.
Here we go. So we've got 63% of y'all are executive directors. We've got 2 board chairs. We've got 3 development chairs, 1 governance committee chair. So we got a good mix of folks here.
Yay, we have some board members up in the house. Awesome. And obviously, as executive directors and CEOs, we need that support. We need our boards to have a deep pipeline. And of course, you're supposed to lead them to it, right? And that's part of your job. So it's this good space for both of you. I'm glad you guys are here. So let's talk about why you should care. For the EDs, you all can be like, I know why I should care. This is really speaking more to the boards, but maybe as an executive director, you need to know why you should prioritize this. Your boards represent the community. And if you don't have the right people on your board speaking up and talking about what's going on in your community and the problem you're trying to solve, you are not going to have clear mission and vision, and you'll stray from it, right? You will start chasing the money, or you'll start chasing the projects and the collaborations, and you won't be focused on that strict problem that you're there to solve. We want to make sure that the boards are delegating appropriately so that you're following a strategic plan that's been given to you by them. So you have your marching orders and you have a true way to measure your success. For board members, this is fair, right? When we hire an employee, we want to make sure that we've made clear performance expectations. If you don't have a strategic plan that you've properly delegated, then you're not setting your executive director up for success either. So there really is, for both sides, a lot of benefit. You, of course, want your board to have connections in the community, and that's really important for donations and clients and vendors and all of that. Probably one of the biggest ones for me is that being an executive director is lonely. So good boards can make you feel like you have big cheerleaders, right? They always have your back. And if you don't have good board members, if you don't have strong board members, if you have an organization that can't find a board chair, or we're all waiting around to see who drops their pen first because that's the person that's just going to get volunteered to be the board chair, that doesn't feel like energy of someone who wants to support you to be successful as an executive director. And then if none of the other reasons are good enough for you to make board development a priority, then the last reason should be that disengaged boards are violating their legal and fiduciary duties of care, loyalty, and obedience. And this can lead to a lot of troubles. We can point that out. I will not bore you with the legal side of things. Just as a reminder, boards frustrate us. Not only board leadership that's here today, I'm sure you get frustrated because you're probably pushing against a brick wall when you're trying so hard. And on the other side, executive directors, you're frustrated because you just really need them to step up. And I want to remind everybody, we're starting from the same place, that all of us want to make a mark on this world. Boards are absolutely no different. We just have to show them how they can contribute in a way that is rewarding to them and to us. So these things I'm going to blow through, and we're going to blow through them because I want to get to the meat. Just as a reminder, we have 3 legal and fiduciary duties in the state of South Carolina. If you're not aware of these, if your board is not aware of these, it would be a great time to do a little governance training, maybe a little mini session at the beginning of your board meeting coming up about the duty of care, the duty of loyalty, and the duty of obedience. These are actually written into South Carolina Code, and this is where your board members are legally liable and can be held accountable if there is a violation of these duties. Scared you much yet? Just a little bit. In addition to the legal and fiduciary duties, you also have board responsibilities. And we're not going to go through these. You're welcome to take a photo if you want. You're welcome to come back and look at the slides after I send them out. But essentially, in addition to what's considered kind of legal compliance, you have these responsibilities as a board member. And some of these things are almost automatic, like we should follow the bylaws. Well, and that doesn't necessarily always happen, but that's part of it. Strategic planning, fundraising, engaging in meetings and committees. So these are things that would align with your legal and fiduciary duties, but obviously can be above and beyond, like approving and monitoring programs and services. Here are some characteristics of high impact boards. This is what you would see. So if you have I put this one first because this is the truth. If you have strong board leadership, you're going to have a strong board. If you have a tough cookie for your board executive or the executive committee, you're going to have a strong board. Term limits. Hope no one's like cringing, because that's one of the things I oftentimes have to come in and fix, are the term limits on a board. Healthy relationships with the executive director, someone who works as a partner with the board of directors and is really works hand in hand versus the board overreaching into the executive director role, or the executive director doing all of the board recruitment and all of the board's jobs. Committees, that you work from committees, that's really where the real work is done. Your strategic planning is happening and you're focused on that, as well as a formal recruitment process that your executive director is not doing. And obviously fundraising, board members are and see themselves as fundraisers. So important. Fundraising is not the F word. That's one of my trainings that I do. And I think it's important because a lot of board members cringe when you say that, but it's absolutely what they are. And then we want to, of course, make sure that they're assessing their performance at all times, getting training, such as the duties, the fiduciary and legal duties you guys are going to do next time. Ben, if we have anything in the chat, would you please monitor that for me? Just because I don't have a ability to balance all that. We have questions though.
Yes, and so Dale had asked, where can we find definitions for these duties, these fiduciary duties, and I've got a link in there. Board Source is a great resource for some of these questions. They publish a document called the 10 Basic Responsibilities of Board Members, and there's an explanation in there as well. And Colleen, thank you for making that note in there. The South Carolina Nonprofit Corporation Act is also a really good guide.
Word for word.
The words.
The word. That's word for word. So you guys can know exactly what the requirements are for compliance and when you can get into trouble as a board of directors, because if you do certain things under certain standards, you can waive your own protections under the law and be liable. Are there any questions in addition? If anybody wants to come off mute.
One thing I was going to comment on, I've seen a lot lately, is about the term limits is I think it's can be restrictive in the sense of getting donations and funding. Like that is a question I see more and more. And then I think it's a best practice or guiding principle of Together SC. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It certainly is.
Yeah, your term limit, the organization's term limit, board of directors term limits is probably one of the number one reasons, maybe the top three. Colleen can always add to this, that I'm brought into organizations going through really serious crisis, whether it's leadership transition or otherwise, because organizations without term limits usually have founder syndrome. They usually have board members who've been there too long to be able to see the dream anymore, or maybe they've lost sight of the actual mission and are focused on the organization. And it's not intentional, it's just what happens. And so, even with the term limits and people are able to rotate off and come back on, that can happen. We just need to be very cautious of that. I'd love a good poll, Ben, maybe someday, of how many organizations in South Carolina have actual term limits in their bylaws. That would be a cool
Well,
thing
the
to learn.
question sometimes is they may have term limits in the bylaws, but do they follow them strictly? Because sometimes you get this
Yep.
really, really good board member and you just don't want to let
I
them go.
know. You don't have to let them go. We're going to talk about that. Thank you for setting me up for that, Ben. What? You and I act like we've done this before. Okay, so how to engage board members. We're going to really look at, I said at the beginning, engagement and then recruitment, right? Engagement and onboarding, engagement and retention are the key ways. So there are some strategies to engaging board members. And we're going to walk kind of through those. The first, I don't know how many of you, if you want to show your hand in your little screen where you can raise your hand, have read Simon Sinek's Start With Why. It's one of my favorite books for mission-driven organizations. It actually wasn't, it was for for-profits, but the ones that are successful, it's because they're centered around their mission and understanding their why. Well, for people to be inspired at work and to inspire others, they really have to understand the why behind it all. So, really helping your board understand their why, having them understand why they joined your board, and tapping into their motivational drives. Remind them why to help get them back to that in a way that is not it's going to feel cheesy, and it's going to be a whole lot of, well, because you do good things. Not really. Did you want exposure to the community? Did you want to get your name out in the press? Like, we want to understand the motivations that are both personal as well as, for the community. And so getting that information is important. So before we talk about board training, how many of you do board training? I don't know if we lost Ben to run the poll. Yeah, there he is. Your face went off the screen.
All right, we've got the answers coming in now. Thank you to everybody who's voting and submitting your answers.
And we're at 85. You can close it, Ben, if you
All
want.
right. So it's pretty even. We've got
Yeah.
9 folks who said yes, they do that at least once a year. Hooray. And then 3 each who say sometimes we do it, maybe every other year, or we do it every couple of years, or no, we really should.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want you to be able to say, we do it at every board meeting. And whether it's 3 minutes, 5 minutes at the beginning of your board meeting, you are reminding them of a best practice in reading financial statements, a little video off of YouTube. You'd be surprised what you can find on there. We're not talking about spending money. These are ways that we're giving back to our board too, because they are becoming better versions of themselves because we're doing it. So awesome for once a year, but I want to even ramp it up even. I'll challenge you to go further than that. For those of you who are not, let's do this. Let's start talking about a once a year training, and let's get started there if that's the easiest way for you. So the reason why I asked is because obviously it's really important to make sure that we're doing that continuing education, but we have to know what we're dealing with. So I don't know about you guys, but every year, probably somewhere around October, for some reason, it should happen in January with New Year's resolutions, but really for me, it's October. I suddenly start reassessing. How am I doing? Am I doing well with my health? Am I doing well with my job? What's going on with am I being a good parent? It is the same thing for board members. We need to have them hold the mirror up and to be really honest about how they're doing as board members. And the only way you can do that is by having them do a self-assessment. These don't cost money. I mean, I do one and I charge for it, but you don't have to have the ones that cost money. A self-assessment that you do on an annual basis is something that you can then use to design what kind of training they need. So if they say, oh, you know what? One of the questions on here is, do I find service valuable? And my answer is no, and everybody else's answers were no, or maybe just a little. We've got a problem. We need to identify that. So having them do this even periodically, but at least once a year, and then going back and keying your training in and around what they need to know more about. Strengthening their personal relationships. I have a lot of corporate boards I work with. I mean, we're all corporations, right? All nonprofits, but I have some that are made up of more for-profit corporate board types, especially up here in the DC area. And these folks, they don't want to do any team building. They don't want to hippy dippy any of that. I mean, we're much friendlier down in South Carolina. We want this time together. I don't care how we get it there. We've got to make the board meetings fun, and we have to make it personal. My husband is active duty Army, and the reason why they have the intimacy among the soldiers, because you never leave a man behind. You're fighting for the soldier beside you. It's what they train you. It's what they drill you. And the same goes for board members. I mean, if I don't know Kathy, I only see her once a month at a board meeting, I'm not going to be too worried if I don't show up at her governance committee meeting. And I'm not going to be too worried if I don't give her the names that I was supposed to give her. But if I know Kathy and that Kathy has 2 dogs and one's sick and that this is happening and this is happening, I'm going to stand up for her. So we have to make it fun. We have to think about doing intentional relationship building with our boards. You can do this at your board meeting. Again, I'm not talking about a long board meeting, an hour, 5-minute session in the beginning with information, about 2 to 5 minutes in the middle with some sort of fun, silly, somebody's going to make fun of it game in the very middle so that you guys can get to know each other. The board can get to know each other. And if you're virtual, which a lot of the boards still are because they found it very convenient, it makes it a little bit harder, and you have to be even more intentional because there's no drinking coffee while you're waiting for the board meeting to start. So you've got to be more purposeful about it. And then to hosting some gatherings, possibly if you can host some gatherings, whether it's the board chair in their home or out in somewhere, so that you can get people together. If you can include their family members, wow, because then it becomes a family experience, and the spouse isn't upset that his wife is always happens to be out at the board meetings or doing something, and you get to know the kids and you get to know boyfriends and girlfriends and all the things. So this is important to foster. That's how you foster trust among a group. Showing impact. Casual, not even doing a real poll. How many of you create like a mission moment in your board meetings where you have a client story, or you have a director? I see some hands going up and some thumbs up. A director share program impact. Showing impact is powerful. Your board members want to remember why they're there. And it is not those financial reports that they just love talking about. They want to know why they came today. So remind them, give them a 2-minute case study, give them a 1-minute summary of that program and how you're killing it. Show them video of kids in your after school care program. Talk impact, show impact. That's true for your community too. Okay, we all do like an award. I mean, otherwise we wouldn't be giving trophies out to kids that just happen to show up for soccer practice. But people love rewards. We love them. And this is one way you can actually recognize your board members. Yes, let's pull it up from soccer in the young school days. This still works. Press releases when they join your board. You can have a stock one already done. Slap a new name in it, slap a short bio, and release it to your community. Retirement awards, board member of the quarter, brag on them to their boss, their family members in front of them. One of the things I do as an interim CEO is I have a 1-page executive director report, and up in the top corner on every report, it has brag on board, and it's my board members that stepped it up that last month. And I will say what they did, and I will talk about them. So making sure that you're doing that. Now, if you know their why, you know whether or not this is going to be effective. You can't do it for everybody. So if you know their why and you know that someone is really feeds off of this, you're going to go hard with that. If it's someone that hates the attention, maybe back off a little bit. Don't push so hard. So you're going to know that because you know their why. Yes, privileges incentives work for board just like they do for staff, just like they do for all of us. Thinking of ways, and nonprofits, we're so creative. We can get things donated that are most random. And we can say, hey, you are a VIP because of what you do for this organization. The amount of liability you take on, we are so grateful for your voice at this table. And here's some tickets to the local township auditorium theater program coming up. You want to be able to show them that you're grateful, even if it is just pizza party, even if it is just you bring some tchotchkes from your last trip and you have 10 squishy balls that you got with a name on it from all the tables you were, the sponsorship tables where you were ganking their stuff. Bring them things. People love this stuff. Another good idea is if you're virtual, especially, have lunch sent to them. Maybe it's your board member of the quarter, have a lunch sent. So you're getting a gift, you're getting that love, and you're also getting recognition at the same time. And don't hesitate. If you have ideas, drop those in chat. I'm sure people are really open to any of that. All right, so we want to make sure that we're allowing them to contribute. So if we have someone on our board who is a marketing person, but they don't want to do marketing because they do that every day in their job, but you want them to do marketing, they're likely not going to be happy with your board service. They're not going to be where they want to be, and they're probably not going to be that enthused, and they're not going to stick around. We need to meet them where they are. So if we've done a really good job on the recruitment side, we know what they want to do. We're going to help place them properly as they come in. They're going to get what they need from us, and we're going to get what we need from them. And then following strategic direction. So if your board members are not talking about strategy level discussions at the board meetings, once they go over the financials, this can be stupid boring. I realize everyone loves to talk about like what kind of wine we're going to serve at the gala, but kill me now if I have to go to a board meeting about that, because I'm here to provide a strategic vision of how to solve this societal problem. And you're asking me what kind of wine to serve? I've got more to give than that. So one of the key things is to making sure your 1 hour board meeting includes a strategic question at the end. And these are fun because you can do these, you can do all 12 of them if it's 12 board meetings or 6, whatever it may be, and you can create them in advance. And these are questions where there is no answer. So an example would be for a Habitat for Humanity I worked with, the question at the end was, what organizations are doing this better? And then they just talked. And it was about 10 minutes, and it was really beautiful. Another one was, are we being inclusive in our client recruitment? Again, talking, no decisions, no judgments, just an opportunity to have really clear discussions. And then if it can align with the strategic plan, even better. So if you have your dashboard from your strategic plan and you're able to say, why are we underperforming on this program? Let's talk about that. Let's ask questions about that to see how we can do better, not to give assignments, to have discussions about the bigger picture. And we'll pause for questions here. See, we have some stuff in the chat and in Q&A. See, what types of training should we do? Okay. There's a question in the chat asking in the Q&A asking what types of trainings we should do for your board development. Well, there's about 20 different ones I can think of immediately. I can probably send you a list. I'm not sure if I have that list still, but how to read a financial report, basic legal fiduciary duties, how to create a matrix and to use it for your recruitment plan. Let's see, how to divide fundraising efforts on the actual fundraising or development committee structures, job descriptions for board chair. I mean, you guys, board ED relationships, if you're doing 5 minutes, there's so much. And I bet Together SC has a ton of materials you could use, because even if it's just like a blog and your board chair reads the blog or your governance chair reads it, that's information, that's education and learning, and it feels good. I walk away a better person because I have that information as a board member. I don't know what else we have in the chat. If there's anything else that anybody wants to come off mute, just feeling like real need to say something, get it. Okay, we'll move on then. Nobody's just like driving. Okay, so we're getting ready to talk about getting ready for this. Before you answer, here's the question. We can talk all day long about what you need to do, but if your board members don't know their job and aren't doing it, then you're not ready for this. So let me know. Are you ready for this? That's the jams. Can't y'all hear them playing in the background? That's what I heard when I said it.
Answers are coming in.
Okay.
Folks are doing a little thinking about it.
Yeah, maybe all the categories don't fit you perfectly and you really want to argue with the category. Got it.
All right, I'll go ahead and close it out.
Okay.
So we've got a few folks who say, "Hey, we're hitting it. Our board members know what they do, what they're supposed to do, and they're doing it." Most folks are saying we're somewhere in between. We know where we're headed, but we're still on our way there. And a few folks are saying, "Well, we need a little bit more help."
Yeah. And all fun place to be. If you do need more help, though, I would say start with the first part. Don't go into the next. Recruitment's not where you are as much as getting your house in order, because you don't want to recruit new people and bring them into a place where they're not going to be successful. So we want to clean up first, get those foundational pieces in place, and then move forward. Okay, so that's kind of what I just said. If your board doesn't have the characteristics and engagement that you need, then you need to stop here and identify those gaps before you start a formal recruitment program. All right, recruitment. So recruitment is a whole lot of things. There's some critical steps that really come in before this one that we just talked about, but boards kind of launch here. And so that's why I give that first part of the whole training. And I feel like it's important because that's not where to start. You start in the beginning, and then this is the second part. And, I think we have to be really careful about relying on the CEO to identify all the prospective candidates based on their own networking. That can lend itself to major problems and really affect the organization. So if you're not already getting your board members to provide names, go back to foundation. Right. So essentially, to build a pipeline, we want to provide a positive experience to both current and new members. So that's the engagement. And we want to set expectations at this stage of how we will then expect them to perform and cultivate and recruit them ongoing. So let's talk about what the stages are. Identification. We really want to make sure that we're identifying strong candidates. And the way that you're going to do that can be a variety of things, but there are a few very specific ways that are the best. One is that you want to enter a process understanding what your strategic plan requires. So if you don't have a strategic plan, what do? Go back to foundation. If you have a strategic plan, you're now going to identify what types of board members you need for filling those spots. So if your strategic plan says we're going to do an entire rebranding and marketing of the organization, well, guess what? We need to probably be targeting some people that are going to have that background and experience and knowledge to be able to give us a strategic kind of direction for things. They're not going to do it. We don't use board members to do work. They're simply going to be advising on that and getting us access to those communities that we need to be able to get that work done. We also needed diversity. And so when we're thinking about it, we want to make sure that we have given thought to the resources where the information is coming from and who is giving the names, because that can affect our diversity. If we have an all white board, they're going to give us mostly white names, then we're going to stay non-diverse. So we've got to be a much more thoughtful about where we're getting our names from. And I want you to think about that, because traditionally we've said board members should always bring the names, but that's not necessarily true, because that's not going to get you the most diversity if you're looking to expand, and not just in race, obviously all versions of diversity. So there's two ways to identify. One, your supporter database. This is my go-to. If you haven't volunteered with my organization, why would I even think I don't know Bob? I don't even give me his name. He didn't even give me any money yet. Why would I even think about him coming on my board? So I'm not going to go out and ask Bob to start dating me. I don't even know him from Adam. I'm looking at my supporter database. The board member prospects can be Bob's, and if they are, you need to start incrementally and carefully with introducing the organization to them. You want to get them on board slowly, so that you can date a little bit and see if this is something you guys want to do together. We'll talk about how we can do some dating that doesn't force it down their throats. But brainstorming names at board meetings is a good way to start. You can take your supporter database with you and then ask your board members, who do you know? That's a great way to do it. Ask them who they know of your donors. Ask them of, especially corporations. If you have board members who serve with certain corporations, have them have a buy-in with someone else in their organization. Like, you always get a referral from that. And of course, create a board matrix. I say, of course, not everyone uses one of these. You should. This is a living document, so it's going to be changing constantly. Unfortunately, yeah, you're going to have to constantly be doing it. Another example would be, let's say you wanted to create a fee-based business model for a product or service. Well, you're probably going to need somebody with a good business mentality giving you that strategic oversight. You target those people who are going to help you with that. You can, again, search your database for this. You usually can run all kinds of data on it. You're going to have to update this with board members at least once a year at that once a year training you talked about. Hopefully it's a board retreat. And you really don't want to make contact with anyone who's identified on this outside of the person that's introduced you to them. So you're going to make contact through that person, whether it's a board member or another stakeholder. And really the first step will be asking for a meeting with them. I can get into all the details. We will not have time today of what you can do in that meeting. And believe me, all the way down to a script. This was something that I very much enjoyed when I was an active executive director. Second step is solicitation. So you're going to make sure that you've set clear expectations, because otherwise the board member doesn't know why they're there and they're confused, and then it's not rewarding for anybody. So the interviews are a time and space for you to actually set that. You can give them the job description. You can give them a place for you to a standard list of questions, maybe a fact list, a fact questionnaire that you have about your organization. And you're going to give them a sales pitch here. You're going to use shocking statistics to get them on board. And this, of course, is if you're got a newbie, but even with the people that know your organization. And you're going to talk about your impact and share your impact stories. Once you've done it, the next meeting, your board member does it. You've trained them how to pitch. And so we want to train them and then you to let go. So if you're the executive director, you train them and you let go, and then you stop having to show up at the meetings. So year one, you're training. Year two, you're stepping back and attending, and then year three, you're out of the picture. That's what's considered building a board pipeline. And of course, you're going to want to make an ask. But I like to say, when you're talking about recruitment, you have to be clear to the point of almost brutal. So when I used to interview executive and board members for my organization, when I was a full-time ED, I said the following. Now, don't freak out. You may know already that I have quite a strong personality, but I would say, it's your God or your faith if you have one. It is your family. It is your job. And it's this organization, or this is not the right organization for you. I believe very firmly that if you're going to assume that kind of legal responsibility, you've got to be able to put me at least fourth, and sometimes maybe even up at the top, up higher than that. And that is my culture, right, that I had at my organization that may not fit with yours, but that's the kind of clear expectations I'm talking about. We're not there to make ourselves look good. We're being really honest about the fact my husband says a lot about liking football when we were dating. Now I don't watch it at all. That's what, like, we're not lying about liking football just to get the man. We want to make sure that we're being very clear about who we are. So you're going to provide a copy of that job description, and you're going to provide copies of your committee information. You want to make sure that they talk to their significant other, and that they've had that conversation. You say that, like, you need to go home and talk to your other, because this is going to require a lot of work. And you want to make sure that they are willing to understand the commitment that's going to come into it. Don't recruit the wrong people, y'all. It will take you down just to have a body. Don't do that. 3 or 4 strong ones and fulfilling the legal obligations under South Carolina law is better than 8 barely showing up. Your board job description should include some of the following things. You want to make sure that it has that list of responsibilities we talked about earlier. You want to also tell them about those legal duties. Tell them what they are doing. They are signing a contract. It's big. We don't act like it's big for some reason. It's big. People get sued. You are going to protect them with directors and officers liability insurance, but they still get sued, and no one wants their name in a legal document. We're going to put in there about our policies, conflicts of interest, confidentiality, all the policies, whistleblower, whatever else that we require board members to understand. We're going to put it up front and center. We're going to tell them from the get-go, this is how we are. This is our culture. And that we have confidentiality when it comes to the terms, especially of things that are happening within the organization. Wow, I just skipped through a whole bunch. Okay. Engagement. All right, we're going to skip. I don't want to go too far without missing it. Okay, so then the next part is onboarding. So let's say everybody says, my spouse says I'm good. I really like you. Well, I like you too. And we're going to do this. Okay. Then we're going to look at onboarding. There are some key components to onboarding that require you to do it right from the beginning. Don't screw this up. This is where you have the opportunity to set a very clear kind of standard for what your expectations will be through the entire year. And you're giving them the tools to be successful. It's just like bringing on a new employee. Set them up for success. Give them a good board orientation. That could be an hour in the meeting. It doesn't have to be a lot. Give them that board manual. I'm going to provide you a list of what should go in that manual after this. And I have a copy here. Do an application so you can fill out your matrix and have that online. You can also add a signature to that application. Sign in blood. See, I just got you. But it shows the seriousness of it, right? Your job description, your business agreement, if you have one, that'd be conflict of interest or any other agreements. A mentor, a buddy, someone to accompany them, maybe have coffee with them before the first meeting, so they're not walking in blind, other than the person they met at the initial recruitment, and someone to sit beside them at the meeting and say, "Oh, this is what we do now," and "Oh, did you here to read all your stuff?" But a buddy, and everyone wants that. Even the highest level executives that I see on corporate boards, they like these buddy systems. This works. Corporations for-profits do this. Leadership check-ins. So making a phone call after the first board meeting and saying, how'd it go? You doing good? You ready to get on that committee that we talked about? What can I do for you to help support you? Do you need more stuff? I guarantee you they're going to say, I need more onboarding. I need more orientation. I'm really not sure what I'm doing, because they just received so much that they can't take it. And then the self-assessment, start with that. Give them the self-assessment. They'll say, I can't answer any of this. That's okay. This tells you what my expectations are. And 1 year from now, we're going to see where you are. You're going to do the board orientation. I'll send this out to you. Your board orientation should have some key components of it. It's, again, setting clear expectations, though. Not rocket science, people. That's what I was saying, not rocket science. Here's your board manual. You can take a picture. I'll send the form afterwards anyway. But these are the things that should go into your board. They're not going to read it, PS. But if your mentor calls and tells them, hey, you need to read that document. I'm going to take you over to page 5 so that we can read this. That's going to make them read it. So this mentor buddy system can really complement the manual. And this can be online, by the way. I mean, this should be online these days. It shouldn't be an actual physical document. And as we finish up, and I know we're going to end up going over, I do want to hold space for us to hear from you guys, to come off mic, to chat. I can tell you, I could do 3 hours on just the recruitment and onboarding piece alone. So there is so much detail and in-depthness to all of that. There's so much more to know if you are eager to go that direction. So what do we got? We have anybody in chat? What are you going to do? Oh, that's Ben. Thank you, Ben.
Jenny, I'd be interested if any other CEOs or you could comment on this. The recruitment and the onboarding, the engagement, maybe all of it, how much of that is the responsibility, do you feel, of the CEO versus maybe some seasoned board leadership? Because I love it all. I just don't have capacity to do all that by myself. Or who on the team is,
I love that.
implementing this?
Yes, Belle, great question. So here's the hard fact of it. The hard fact is your job as the executive director or CEO is to make your board look good. And if they don't know what they're doing, you're going to have to do that in a way that's probably going to require more of your time. You're going to have to feed them stuff. They're not going to, it's almost like people say with your spouse, like you need to make them feel like it's their idea. Same thing with a board. You're going to feed them the information to support them and let them be the one that's successful in front of the other board members. So they're going to do it, but you have to do it to get them there. But that's year one. Because year two, they're going to say something like, hey, Bill, I haven't received, I think I need like something like that committee thing updated. And then by year three, they're on their own. And you get them for 6 years, typically, depending on your terms. So you're going to have them fully trained. And what's happened by then is you have a healthy board pipeline. Again, a lot of work up front, a lot, but 100% worth it, because once you do it, that board will breed success. They will bring only on people that have it. They will train each other. They will build the depth pipeline. And we didn't even get to talk about advisory councils and places to plant people that you're just dating but don't want to get, you don't want to bring in for marriage initially. But we have all of that. That'll also help bring it, kind of plant you for your future. But it does take it. There's nothing but blood, sweat, and tears in the beginning. Ben, did you raise your hand?
I did, because I wanted to make sure we didn't miss the question. Somebody had asked in the Q&A about what a good board size was, and Colleen and I both answered the question, but I wanted to hear yours.
Oh, well, I think I said early on, I prefer a board that's somewhere around 8 to 10, as long as all of them are really and truly and wholly involved. The less is more. You guys have to do a lot of the work as executive directors. Board chairs have to do a lot of the heavy lift. If you've got a bunch of people you're dragging along, that's too much work. And it makes the others say, well, Bob didn't have to show up. Why do I have to come to the meeting? And people start doing that. And that's not gravy. So we want to make sure that we think less about the size, think more about the quality. Thank you, Melissa. That's great. I love that we've got Melissa saying that she's going to make sure there's legal obligations are updated. Good. Show them a good YouTube on it. I think BoardSource has some materials. Implementing self-assessments. Wonderful. Ben, do you guys have a resource for a board self-assessment?
We have some old questionnaires that we've used in the past. I can dig up and dust off.
Awesome. I love this. Okay.
I'll say on the board self-assessments, we've done assessments of sort of like board satisfaction, like how are we doing, how are y'all doing, how are you feeling, kind of questions. But we've also done self-assessments to help in the recruitment process, where we ask board members to identify themselves on the number of demographic lines, as well as on their skill sets. And then that helps us then, one, realize that, hey, we have board members have skill sets we didn't realize that they had.
Yeah.
And then two, that helps us do the gap analysis.
Yes. Yeah. That's good. You can always include that on there. You can also do things like, it's a great time to say, like, do you feel like you're contributing the way that you want to? It's a good way to check in. If your board chair doesn't have enough time to have those one-on-ones, check in that way. Ask them how they want to contribute or why they're there. And then I am going to plug once again, Colleen and I are rock stars. Somehow we decided that we wanted to get together and do a bunch of training online and then film it and market it. And it worked. So we have this great 8.5 hour training series for nonprofit executive directors or incoming, brand new, whatever it may be. And it's in 10 to 15 increments. So you can binge it. Like you can do 5 sessions, or you can do 10 minutes in the morning. You can listen to it audio or video. And I'm going to add in the chat the information. And Together South Carolina members get 10% off the training itself because you guys are awesome. And that is it for me. Thank you.
So here talking, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. And in these last few minutes, if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. But I just want to say thank you, Jenny, for this wonderful presentation. We've got a lot of resources, a lot of things that Jenny mentioned we do have on the Together SC website. I put the link in the chat for you. Our board policy framework can be really helpful in helping you understand which policies your board might need to have. And you can use them as templates. They come as Word documents, so you can slap your logo on them and make edits to them and put them before your board. And of course, we've got some questionnaires and things like that. Just feel free to email me and I can send them along to you.
I meant to share this last screen, by the way, just so that people can, if you didn't have what you're going to do right now, this is it. This is what you're going to do right now.
And I would be remiss if I didn't mention Board Strong. That's our new tool for board recruitment. If you haven't taken a look at boardstrong.togethersc.org, that's a portal that we've partnered with the New York Council on Nonprofits to bring to South Carolina. You can post your board job posts there, and we're working to recruit candidates from all across the state. So if you have any questions about that, let us know, but you can create a free profile on there and post for free.
Susan was asking in the chat what to confirm what I'll send out. There is an association in Northeast that has a board assessment that is like $95 and you can use it for your entire board. So I will send out a link to that. It's pretty good. And then I'm going to send out a list of information that should be contained in your board notebook, the handbook that you're going to give them. I'll also send out a copy of these slides. Was there anything else anybody heard that I needed to make sure I sent? I think that was it.
And Jenny, if you send those
Gina's
to
speaking. Thank you. Okay.
If you can send those to Brooke and
Snitchy.
Destiny, they'll make sure to get it out to the group.
Thank you. Gina, did you need something? Colleen says she's got a good board assessment. She just threw herself there to give you guys some stuff. The reason why I usually push the one out of, I can't remember, New Jersey. I know, don't hold that against them. I can't remember where it is, but or Connecticut, but they do it for you. So when the data comes in, they run it and they give you this beautiful report. It's like, what? That just saved like a massive amount of time. So if you have, the money to spend it. Thank you guys. Thanks for coming today.